She finds one thing and she goes all in on it.
I've never seen her be afraid of anything.
She won't take no for an answer.
She is fierce.
She's always said, life starts at the edge of your comfort zone, I think is her favorite quote.
She can be tough, but there's also no one that cares more about the people around her.
If something enters her mind that she wants to get done, it gets done very quickly.
Mary Beth is somebody that I would describe as being completely fearless. She's the type of leader that is able to recharge herself pretty much every day.
Her innovation, her creativity, her tenacity, her commitment to the community.
She's not timid. I can't wait every day to hear what her next adventure is going to be.
She's fabulous. Yep.
I grew up in Oklahoma and I wanted to go to the big city. And my thought originally, and I liked fashion, I thought I'd be a fashion editor in New York City. I picked a school at the University of Missouri School of Journalism. When I got there, I discovered that the fashion department involved working with the ladies in home ec. And I did not like that environment. But I was in the journalism school and I found out that I had a natural affinity for the kids and the professors who were in the advertising sequence. And so that's how I got into advertising. When I graduated, I moved to Chicago, and lo and behold, I ended up at one of the world's largest and finest advertising agencies, and I was primarily crunching numbers and doing media plans, because that's what they hired women to do back in the day.
She was in the media department there, down on the 11th floor, and I was in account management up on 15. And I looked over, and she's standing next to me, and I'm thinking, boy, she's really pretty. You know, she's really cute.
And we started dating, and then he moved to Cincinnati.
I'm driving her back to the airport after one of her visits. We were going across the Brent Spence Bridge, and she turned to me and said, "Are we going to get married or not?"
And the next week, he arrived in Chicago with a dozen roses and an engagement ring, and then I moved to Cincinnati. And there's a big, large corporate advertiser in Cincinnati, and I was there for a number of years.
At the time that this whole idea of media buying services was just starting to develop, there were very few companies that were doing it.
There were very few women in any kind of role except for administrative or secretarial. And so it's kind of paving the way. There weren't a lot of role models. Began to get more and more responsibility and worked with a lot of advertising agencies in New York and Chicago.
She really had the background and the technical expertise to stand toe-to-toe with clients and our associates.
Then along the way, they hired another gentleman about my same age, and he and I were working together. And one day I was in his office, and he left for a moment to go attend to something in the hallway, and right there on his desk was his paycheck. And being human nature the way it is, I looked over to see what was his pay scale, and I noticed that it was much higher than mine. So I went in and I talked to my boss, and he said, "Well, I don't know, that's interesting, and we'll see what we can do." So a couple of weeks later, he called me back in, and he said, "Well, I want you to know we've made a decision. We are going to make an adjustment to your pay to be equal, but I want you to know it does not set well with management. That incident with the paycheck was following me around. Big corporate environment with very little opportunities for women was not the place for me." A couple months later, I left and founded Media That Works.
She was extremely excited. She felt that all of the experience that she had had in her career to date had led her to that point.
She was like, this is something that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna go all in, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna study it, and I'm gonna get it right from the beginning. And she just, put kind of the blinders on and went after it.
Oh my goodness, it was completely different. It was like a breath of fresh air to walk into an office and say, "This is mine."
But she was also really focused. I mean, she worked day and night researching getting the tools, the materials.
And what motivated me was the opportunity to make decisions on my own, what was best for a client and best for my colleagues.
And I remember walking down from my grade school and sitting in the office and hearing her make phone calls and negotiate with stations and always being curious and wondering what that was like.
Mary Beth believed going directly to those stations to get better service, better deals for her clients. She believed that was important. There were lawsuits that were threatened if we did not stop conducting business in that way. Mary Beth stuck to her guns, and kind of it was a showdown, and said, well, we're not going to stop operating in the way we think is best for our clients. And she stood them down.
And people who came to work at our place, we said, okay, you have signed on to be an entrepreneur within this entrepreneurial organization.
She really believed in taking her own process and work discipline and helping carry that through to the rest of us.
Which means you do the right thing at the right time, all the time.
And what I've learned through the years is that you're not born to be an entrepreneur, but you become one. And you become one through being around role models and folks who embody that entrepreneurial spirit.
If she believed in you, there was no one that was going to fight harder for your success.
She made every opportunity that you could possibly want available to you.
We've always had a company that has been 70, 80% women in those early days. The gender gap, the pay gap was just never really an issue.
We don't have to go back and retrofit salaries and raise women up to be equal with men. Everybody has always come in on an equal plane here.
It was very natural that Mary Beth treated everyone the same.
Salary base was a salary base. It made no difference whether it was male or female.
It's kind of a non-issue at Empower. It's always been that way.
There has never been a conversation about a glass ceiling. There's never been a conversation about what it takes to get into leadership as a woman, as a man.
She has turned out an incredible, impressive list of successful businesswomen.
Everyone grew in their careers, were able to take on more responsibilities.
I never felt like, as a female coming into this business world, that I had any barriers. You can be a career woman and you can be a mom, and you can do both of those things really well.
We were there over 20 years ago.
Mary Beth, thanks for the opportunity to work at Empower. I can't think of any other way I'd like to spend the last 32 years.
Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for being an inspiration. Sure do love you.
Thank you for believing in a 20-something-year-old that had just moved to Cincinnati.
I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the things that she set in motion all those years ago.
Not only a good friend, but colleague, partner, leader of the company. I know her in so many different ways.
We've had, really a fantastic marriage. We're best friends and buddies, and one for one, and all that stuff. Yeah, it's been a joy.